Good morning, everyone. It's Micah, and I am coming to you this morning um, after it's been a very long couple weeks for me, but I have a vacation coming up, so it should get a little better for me as I get a chance to relax coming up. But I wanted to make a quick live video. We're going to talk for about 20, 25 minutes or so about how to get your small business ready for the recession. I first want to lay the groundwork of talking about a recession and how Main Street versus Wall Street are talking about the recession, because that's a very important thing to kind of understand. And if you haven't been impacted yet in your small business in any way, whether from the supply chain side, from the labor side, or from the consumer side, in terms of what they're spending, what you're paying, and how you're organizing your labor, then you will be eventually. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But before we do that, I'm Micah Logan. This is the Common Sense Show.
You're listening to the Common Sense Show. If you just started a new business, or if you're just thinking about it, this podcast is for you. Micah Logan has a stellar track record coaching small businesses to achieve six-figure revenue streams. The advice on this show is what has allowed him to have over 15 years of experience as an entrepreneur. Here is your host.
All right. So, let's get going. We're going to first start with the fact that there was an article in CNBC that was talking about how Main Street is convinced that a recession will hit the U.S. economy this year. And just remember, it's important to factor in the fact that oftentimes CNBC and a lot of the major news, mainstream media business outlets like to survey both the Main Street folks, small business owners, small investment firms, and folks like this about the economy, but they also do so on the opposite side, Wall Street, big, large corporations, big, large investment firms, and things like that. So, but today we're going to take more of a Main Street perspective when it comes to what's happening with with the economy and how small business owners feel about it. And so here's the article from CNBC that talks about Main Street is convinced that a recession will hit the U.S. economy this year. But what I want to focus on are some of the main points in this article. So Main Street and Wall Street are often at distance when it comes to the state of the economy. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Wall Street has way more money than Main Street in aggregate. It's very concentrated there, and they're very insulated in a lot of ways from the effects of the economy, which is why when really bad things happen, they don't have the resiliency of a Main Street operator who has who typically has to deal with the boots on the ground stuff issues, and has to deal with the challenges that could make or break their company. So here in this article, CNBC conducted a survey that found that more than half of economists and investment professionals expect that the Fed will fail in its mission to engineer a soft landing for the economy. That is something that is probably a no-brainer for some of you who are looking at this or listening to this, and for others who expected the government to figure it out. It's unlikely that they're going to find the exact right mixture of when to hike or not to hike interest rates, how to manipulate the Fed to ensure that inflation doesn't get all wacky. There's just going to be some disjointing there, and it's going to, in the meantime, affect the people who are closest to the effects of inflation, which are you and me, the people who are running the small businesses, have the jobs, are consumers who are going out and have to pay for gas and baby formula and things like this. And obviously, we started seeing some effects when it comes to that. So CNBC did a small business survey for the second quarter of this year. So that is April, May, and June. And inflation was the top concern for small business owners, polled by CNBC, and their business outlook is negative. And maybe you agree with this outlook because maybe you feel the same way. It goes on to say that the survey finds few small business owners seeing any bright spots in the current economy. Just 6% rate the current state as excellent, as 18% as good, while 31% rate it as fair and 44 rate it as poor. Uh, for some businesses right now, the economy is doing really well. And for a lot of businesses out there who are feeling the tail effects of the COVID shutdowns a couple of years ago, never able to kind of regain their footing. And there is a tail there. And some industries are feeling this. And it's in the supply chain, but it's also in customer acquisition as well. And they make they do state that while the survey's small business confidence index ticked up for the first time in the Biden administration due to responses on core index questions related to immigration policy, there was a 3% increase to 36% among small business owners who described the current business condition as good. So that's positive that in a very small case that some small business owners felt that their business conditions were good. However, it remains near its all-time lows and well below the pre-pandemic baseline. I mean, it's hard to kind of argue that there wasn't a cliff that happened when COVID came and then the lockdowns, shutdowns, capacity restrictions, and delayed openings were implemented, and it just threw small business owners and Main Street in general into a complete whirlwind, like a tailspin. So there was another survey done by CNBC that was conducted of the general public, and about 77%. Now, this was interesting to me. 77% of the general public expected a recession to occur this year. And I wonder if they're talking about the general public, not all of the general public are small business owners. In fact, I would argue that most of the general public are not small business owners, but there's something that they're feeling and they're seeing that makes them feel like a recession's coming. And I think that one of those things are the combination of the increase in gas prices, the increase of inflation, and the unavailability of a lot of the things that they're used to getting due to those supply chain issues. It just feels like there's something not right. And what that to the general public, and what that feeling is making them feel a little uncertain when it comes to the economy. So 38% of small business owners say inflation is their biggest concern. Twice as many rated that over supply chain disruptions, and well above COVID and labor shortages, which is all kind of this whole pot, this cauldron, probably I should say, of issues are major issues that have some serious staying power. And so there's something, so that's a concern as well. Majority of small business owners, about 75% surveyed, say they are currently experiencing a rise in the cost of their supplies, but as much as they need to offset those rising costs by raising prices, the CNBC survey found that more are hesitant to pass on price hikes to consumers who are already hit hard by inflation. This is actually a real concern. I've talked to small business owners, and it is already hard enough to survive as a small business at the moment, especially if you were already behind on some of your COVID bills or your rent because the landlord was charging you during the shutdown, or because you are having to pay back some of the back rent in your retail spot because the landlord is asking for that back now, or if you've had other bills that normally would have been paid at a regular clip. We don't talk deeply enough, I think, when we talk about COVID, about we talk about the condition and the medical piece itself, of course, which is important. However, we don't talk about, when it comes to small business, that a lot of the bills that were outstanding, due, or put on pause are now coming due for small business owners. And so in addition to trying to get customers back who may be slow to come back, we also have to deal with the fact that these bills have to be paid back, in addition to paying the current bills, in addition to trying to get customers back. And that recipe can be hard for small business owners. And It is a real thing that I don't think that many are actually addressing right now. And small business owners, because of the just the thought in general of trying to get back their customers who may have slowed down due to COVID, are very hesitant to start charging an inordinate amount for things that their customers are not used to paying, or charging in an amount that seems way above and beyond what they normally would. Now, you can make the argument that good business demands that you should actually make sure that you're getting that money back. But you have to strike a balance between what consumers are willing to pay and how they want to patronize your business, and keeping them happy, and the perceived value of what you're offering, with the fact that you're getting pelted with these costs, or these increased costs, due to where we are at the moment. It says the percentage of those, and when it says those, talking about small business owners who are raising prices, is down from 47% to 40% quarter over quarter. So just 17% say now is a good time for businesses to raise prices in general. About half the number, 35%, who say now is a bad time to raise prices. Almost half, 47%, have mixed opinions on whether now is a good or bad time to raise prices. So what am I seeing right now? I'm seeing business owners who honestly don't know what to do, because you start raising prices right now, and then people are going to be like, well, look, I have to drive to you to get to get to your business, and gas is already really high. And then I'm already paying a lot more for my groceries, and I'm paying a lot more for other things. And by the way, I work for someone, and I only got a 3% raise if I got that. So, and if inflation is at 8%, 8.9%, and you have a 3% COLA raise, you're already behind the eight ball. So, where is all this extra money coming from? Well, we'll talk about that in a minute, from the consumer side. But on the small business side, yeah, it's no wonder that almost half of small business owners have mixed opinions about whether or not they should be raising prices, and whether or not, and with 35% in general saying it's a bad time to raise prices. That's a big chunk of small business ownership that feels either conflicted or don't feel like it's a good time to raise prices. And, do I agree with that? I think I agree, depending on what kind of business you're in and how you're running. And if you have to assess whether or not your customers have to travel to your business. And do you feel like what you're offering to your customers generates enough value where even a price increase will still have them feel like they're getting the benefit, have them feel like they are making out over you when it comes to this. So there's a lot of things to consider when it comes to this, to whether or not to raise prices, including what might happen to your customers or consumers if you do decide to raise prices. So it says, while this finding contrasts with other recent small business surveys showing the price increases are still a requirement for the majority of small businesses given the input cost inflation, the CNBC data matches a bleaker business outlook found in other recent Main Street data. Well, the reason why I'm sure that the study contrasts with other recent small business surveys is because small business owners have to make decisions rather quickly. And they have to change their mind and make decisions rather quickly. And by the way, every day is I feel like it's like a month in small business ownership. And so as a result of having to change, their business strategy, how they deal with customers and how they present their offering at the moment, and how they try to drive more value for the consumers, small business owners have to make daily decisions about how and when and where to get their inventory, because they're competing with companies that are much bigger. And well, how do you do that? If you don't have the buying power of a bigger company. It says the National Federation of Independent Businesses Business Monthly Survey shows the outlook for business conditions at the lowest level in its history, and that bearish view has increased sharply. The percentage of small business owners who expect conditions to be worse in the next 6 months hit a net negative 49% in March, the most recent month for which data is available, increasing from a net negative of 35% the previous month in August. That reading was at a net negative of 28%. And honestly, yeah, I mean, why wouldn't the business outlook be poor given what we just talked about earlier? Eric Groves, the co-founder and CEO of the online small business uh, platform Alignable, did some research on how small business owners feel at the moment. His firm's research on small business had anticipated sales back to pre-pandemic levels continuing to shift out in time. So here's an interesting thing that they found. They found that at the end of 2021, every month of its data has shown a shift in outlook in when Main Street expects to be back to full recovery. At the beginning of the year, that's 2022, the expected recovery was Q1 of 2023. So about a year, it would take about 12 months, additional months, to recover from back to the pre-pandemic level. So we're talking, the pandemic roughly started on a Main Street level with the shutdowns in about March 2020. So we're talking about the end of 2029 through the beginning of the end of 2019 to the beginning of 2020. And so now we're talking about small business owners expecting a recovery, initially at the beginning of 2022, at the Q1 of 2023. And now that has been adjusted, they're saying in their surveys, to a lot of people not feeling like a full recovery would be coming until Q4 2023. So so that's about an additional year and 3/4 before small business owners would start feeling customers and business returning to normal. If you're a small business owner or you're thinking about going into small business, one of the things you have to think about is, do you feel like you can survive that long in your business to make sure that you can bounce back to the point where you want to be? Q4 of 2023 is a long time from now, right? I mean, look, we're in June of 2022. And if you go by what looks like to be a shift in outlook to when full recovery might happen based off of people on the ground who are actually doing the work, Main Street, Q4 2023, we're talking about, October, 2023. Can you last that long? That's something that we need to think about. So he continues to say the customers were not I'm talking about Eric Groves, the CEO and co-founder of the small business platform Alignable, said the customers are not coming back as fast as they thought, and inflation is squeezing margins. And with all that going on, it's not surprising that the sentiment is that a recession is coming, Groves said. The ability to shift pricing to customers is not as strong as it is for big box businesses, which is true. Big box businesses control inventory mostly. They have better buying power. And in some cases, their shift in cost to customers because of their buying power is, I don't want to say fractional, but it's a lot less impactful on a per dollar basis than it would be at a small business level, given the amount of inventory, the buying power, and the ability to deploy capital on inventory in advance. So prices are going up everywhere. They're rising much faster in small businesses than they are in big box businesses. And so customers have slowed down, not coming back to small businesses as much. Inflation is going up. So there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of actual, things that we can point to as to why small business owners may feel like they do. The challenge for many small businesses, the article continues, on Main Street has been the ability to access inventory. They need to sell at a competitive rate. I just spoke about that, which remains much lower than for big retailers. They're not getting their fair share of the widget. Eric Groves said the percentage of small businesses indicating that they are back to at least 90% of pre-pandemic revenue, which has been a sign of health, is dropping again, according to Alignable, from 40% to 27% in its most recent data, as they attempt to compete against much better economies of scale. So as time has progressed in initial surveys, small business owners have actually they probably predicted that their customers are coming back, and you may be experiencing this too if you're listening to this podcast. Um, they may have really thought that their small businesses were going to be bouncing back really fast, and they may have started off stronger, but now that is slowing. So you have even less, or fewer businesses that are saying that they're reaching that 90% to 2019 basically levels. So I think we understand the challenges of what's going on right now in small business. Challenges include the fact that small businesses have all the issues that we talked about: customers returning slowly, challenges with inventory, challenges with labor, challenges with supply chain, challenges with accessing credit in some cases, challenges with the fact that demand is slowed down, and the fact that they have reduced buying power when compared to the big box retail shops, or even big box like service providers. So I don't like to just talk about negative things on this show. I like to actually be solution oriented. So let's be solution oriented. And so, what are some of the things that small business owners on Main Street can do in order to try to right the ship or try to prepare for what could be a recession that's coming in 2023? Well, there are 7 things that I wanted to talk about briefly that you could do as a small business owner to try to make your business as recession resilient as possible. And these suggestions are going to be something that I think that when implemented tomorrow, you can see some success with. So let's start with number 1. So the first thing that you can do if you are a small business owner and you are trying to, or a business owner in general, even if you're a medium-sized business, and you want to make sure that you can become recession resilient, is to create a business budget if you don't have one. Really dive in to your business budget to see what you're spending, to see what your business is costing you, and to see where your money is going. Are you spending extraneous amounts of money on things that you're not using? Are you spending money on customer relationship management tools that you're not using? Are you spending money on advertising channels that have not been effective for you? Are you spending money on excess inventory for products that don't sell as well? It's really important to dig into your metrics and your KPIs to see what it is that's selling in your business right now, what it is that's not selling right now, what it is that your money is going to and being applied to, and making decisions based off of that. Which brings us to our point number 2, which is it's time to start getting as lean as possible. So in your business, you may have a lot of areas where you are blowing money out the doors trying to support your business, which is fair enough. In a good economy, it's fine. You can do this. But right now, it's time to get as lean as possible. Do you have to have two or three people managing the same process? Can you get by with 2 or 1? Can you get by with a full-time or a part-time person as opposed to 2 full-time people? Are you spending too much money on inventory and trying to stock up on certain things that you feel like will drive the cost down? But is that taken away from other areas where you could be spending money, like on client acquisition and marketing? That's something that you should think about as well. So getting as lean as possible is important. Cutting operational costs that doesn't impact your ability to service your your customers or fulfill your obligations. However, get as lean as possible to make sure that your business can survive. Number 3, dialing in inventory needs and ordering. It's time that you put your inventory needs and your ordering to the absolute critical test. It's time to make it it has to be a science. You should know where you're spending your money, how much of your money is going out in inventory. What is it costing you? Can you reduce your freight charges? Can you rearrange your logistics? Can you go further upstream and try to drop your costs and your margins? Maybe put some of your widgets together at your shop with a reduced staff to drive down costs. Are there adjustments that you can make in inventory that won't slaughter you on the inventory side. You don't want inventory sitting on the shelves right now, and simultaneously you want to move it. So we have a a type A, type B error problem, right? Which is that on one end you have the fact that you need to make sure that you have just enough inventory to continually um, satisfy your customer base, and then at this other time you want to make sure it's just not sitting there, because inventory sitting is inventory wasted. You want to be selling it and moving it. So what do? You want to keep your marketing going, but at the same time, you want to just maybe now is the time to try to cut out some of your supply chain middlemen and go further upstream. Think about that. Number 4, focus internally. It's time now to get your systems and your processes improvements in place. And it's time to get out to service your existing customers. Communicate more frequently, communicate better, service them better, offer them a greater ability to interact with your business, keep your customer service at a high level, and really try to focus in on customer relationships right now. When you have good customer relationships in business, those people tend to stay with you during hard times like recessions. So focus internally is a big thing. Number 5, maintain your marketing budget. Maintain your marketing budget. Whatever you do, whatever you drop in your business, do not drop your marketing budget. Marketing budgets are so important for driving customers into your business. You want to make sure that the people coming into your business, that you have the ability to continue to fill the customer acquisition bucket. The only way to do that is to not drop your marketing dollars. Those dollars are so important to delivering a high level of high level revenue to your business. Like, customers feed your business. Obviously, sales are what feeds your business. Do not drop your marketing budget. That's the first thing that people cut. That is not one of you don't want that to be the first thing you want to cut. Look at wasted inventory. Look at broken systems. Look at inefficient labor, redundancies in your labor. Look at redundancies in your operations that are money wasters, and then make cuts there before you start cutting your marketing budget. 6, find slightly cheaper ways to deliver your service. That's something that is going to vary depending on what industry you're in. Obviously, the restaurant industry and the fitness industry and manufacturing all service in different ways, but they all have the ability to deliver as well to customers. Is there a way that you can reduce your cost and your delivery system to your customers? That's something to think about. And number 7, the last one I have, the 7th point, is utilize technology. We know that there's a labor shortage right now, and we know that businesses, small businesses and big businesses alike, are having issues with getting labor back into the workplace. So are there ways that you can eliminate positions that you haven't been able to fill and by leveraging technology that will make operating your business a little cheaper? You don't have to pay benefits to technology. So is there something that you can do in business to ensure that technology leverage is going to help make your business more efficient without driving up your labor costs? These are 7 ways that you can actually stay recession resilient. If the recession indeed does come next year, try to implement these processes. Try to also write down some of the things I said today, implement it. I love to hear from you. I did a survey on my Instagram, had a few hundred respondents, and the next time I come on, I'm going to give you those stats about how small business owners and people in general are feeling right now about the economy. But that will be next time, because I ran out of time. But thank you for tuning in today, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.